I know it's a sad moment, but we thank God that we are here. I take this chance to welcome you all to this service of our late uncle, Uncle Nyamongo, who has been a pillar to many of us. I basically welcome all the friends and family members, even as we hold this final service for Uncle. Indeed, it's a sad moment, but on behalf of Karangata SDA Church, on behalf of the pastor and the elders of this church, I welcome you all, and I assure you that you are comfortable. Pastor Muchoki has welcomed you, and I'm doing this on his behalf. Allow me to read one verse, and I insist on reading this verse because one time when I visited Uncle, he was sick in hospital, I visited him and he told me to read for him this verse. And ever since that time, many years ago, when I was still a kid, I still remember this verse, which I always read for the sick whenever I visit them. Psalms 91, verse 1, and it says, I read verse 1 to 7, He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I'll say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He'll save you from the fowler of the snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. Verse 7, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. These are words that I was given by the departed uncle, and really they are words that I treasure, and I'll treasure them until the end.
Mzee Naftal Nyamongo was born in 1931 at Ramba in the then North Mogirango location, where his parents, late Pastor Jonathan Auma and late Diana Bieke, had relocated to. Together with son of his brothers, two of his immediate followers died at infancy while still at Ramba. He later was to name his firstborn son Achoki in memory of one of his deceased siblings. Because of these unfortunate incidents, his parents moved back to the original home in Vonyunyu, where Naftal spent most of his early life until 1969, when he relocated his family to Nyansiongo, the current homestead where he will be buried. As a firstborn of 10 siblings, Teresa, Julia, Reit Joseph, Abner, Flora, Isabella, Machaka, Mecha, and Manyaga, Naftal grew up as an ordinary child of a young, materially struggling couple, spending his time playing with his age mates. At his early age, his parents embraced Christianity, converting to the Seventh-day Adventist faith, opening the way for his father to gain some education and later start working as a teacher. This opportunity led to Naftal starting his education at quite an early age as a student of his father. He started his primary education at Ntana, that is 1939 to 1940, where his father was a teacher. He trekked with his father to school every morning. One early morning, as they trekked to school, his father, Auma, gave him the bag of books he was carrying to hold for him as he stepped into a nearby bush for a call of nature. The dutiful son safely held the bag while waiting for his father to come back. It was at mid-morning when he realized that his father is not coming back. Bewildered, confused, and afraid, he ran to school to inform other teachers and look for help, only to find his father in class teaching other pupils as if nothing had happened. Of course, rules are rules. Naftal was late for class, and it was the duty of the teacher, his father, to punish him for lateness. He could not listen or entertain any excuses about waiting for him by the wayside. Later that day, his father was to teach the importance of priorities in life, choosing between the bag of books he was holding or attending his lessons. This episode was to shape his entire life, helping him to choose what was important. The impact of this episode can be seen in his entire life, where he embraced education for himself, his siblings, and his children, his commitment to family and service to the community. From Tana, Naftal joined Sironga Sector School, passing his examinations so well that he was called to Kisii African Government School. However, his father wanted his child to get a Christian education and could not permit him to join Kisii School. He instead joined Kamagambo SDA School from 1945 to 1948. Some of this.
Met and married at a beautiful church wedding ceremony in Nyanchwa, his pretty dear wife, Rhoda Bosibori, now deceased. He was gladly received to the family of early SDA converts, Elder Sospita Muindi and Susan Moke, his parents-in-law. They were blessed with 11 children, namely Dr. Jaka Choki, late Engineer Gilbert Manyaga, Yokabed Nyakerario, Azenath Bunareri, Josephine Kemunto, Professor Isaac Keango, Janet Monyangi, Gladys Kerubo, Rachel Nyamoita, Fanny Mora, and late Jared Marita. They were eagerly welcomed into the family. Their children's spouses, Eunice Matoya, Susan Arasa, Charles Maticha, Stephen Mokwa, Professor Jacob Bangima, Dr. Miriam Mionzo, Henry Komolo, David Atonga, and Steve Kebati. This family has grown to include 31 grandchildren, namely Melvin, Vilma, Winnie, Advocate Emma, Dr. Valentine, Rhoda, Carol, Nyarango, Indra, Stella, Ayenda, Lillian, Abna, Johnson, Jessica, Advocate Jared, Johnson, Jamie, Dr. Wakisha, Phoebe, Jerry, Jack, Eddie, Zippy, Malcolm, Nifa, Jerry, Teddy, Julius, Tekla, Kashmir, and 13 great-grandchildren, namely Achoki, Nyambura, Kimunge, Marita, Nyakerario, Nyamongo, Sydney, Oslem, Jerry, Bonareri, Bosibori, Buyeke, and Munyangi. The entire Nyamongo family was privileged to have in its midst such a loving and doting father whom they have with heavy hearts to let go and rest awaiting the resurrection. Immediately after leaving Kamagambo, Naftal joined Kindu Adventist Hospital to train as a nurse and was then sent to King George Hospital to finish his training. In 1950, he sat for and passed his examinations. After passing his professional examinations, he worked at Kindu Adventist Hospital from 1950 to 1964 before joining local government and was posted to Kisii Hospital. He spent most of his adult life serving in various health facilities. He was over the years up to 1984 to work and start new dispensaries in the then Kisii district, among which were Manga, Marani, Nyamarambe, Nyamache, Magombo, Chepng'ombe, before joining KMTC in Nairobi between 1973 to 1974 for a clinical medicine course, qualifying as a clinical officer specializing in children's diseases. This training equipped him to fulfill his passion of treating and caring for children. Upon qualifying as a clinical officer in 1974, he was posted to Kisii Hospital before being transferred to Keroka Health Center with the added responsibility of adding rural clinics in the catchment area. Many of the present-day health centers and hospitals were started by him during that time. While still at Keroka, he was sent to Chulaimbo in Kisumu for a short training in Kepi and returned to Keroka as the in-charge and to continue his activities. In 1983, he was transferred to Kisii Hospital, where he worked till his retirement the following year. After retiring, he ventured into private practice and opened his clinic at Nyansongo, then known as Kijauri. It is at his private clinic, which he operated for over 20 years, that he practiced his cherished vocation of treating children.
Many a mother and child now grown up will attest to have been treated by him. The common advice to any sick person in the community was always, and forgive my pronunciation, Kwarorire Nyamongo or Naki Nyamongo whatever. Sokoro was a staunch Christian and an elder of the SDA Church. He was instrumental in the planting of many churches and actively supported the construction of various churches in the larger Kisii and especially in the new settlement schemes. He was lately an elder at his local Matongo SDA Church. In recognition of this pivotal role that he played at the Nyamira Conference, the Nyamira Conference of the SDA Church awarded him a certificate of recognition. Sokoro enjoyed good health throughout his life. Apart from 2 short admissions to hospital for minor surgeries, he exhibited no ill health. He was in fact very particular about his health, exercising regularly even to his old age, watching his diet, and taking regular full medical examinations every 6 months. It therefore came as a shock to us when we noticed 3 months ago that his exercises were reducing and his feeding was becoming poor. At the beginning of April, he was admitted to Nairobi West Hospital to investigate and address the cause of his poor feeding. While at Nairobi West, it was discovered that he had a heart condition that led to his admission to ICU for about 2 weeks. This was stabilized before he was discharged for home nursing. However, the following day after discharge, he was again admitted to Aga Khan Hospital for 1 week and then discharged back home for home nursing. All this time, his feeding was still a challenge. However, we were able to find heart specialists at Karen Hospital who were able to insert a temporary feeding tube. This made medication and feeding easier and more comfortable. Sokoro was again discharged for home nursing. Unfortunately, during his sojourn in various hospitals, he had picked up an infection that was difficult to treat. This infection could continue to give him a difficult time all through his illness. Sokoro was readmitted to Karen Hospital ICU on Sunday, 24th May, where he stayed before succumbing to his illness in the morning of Monday, 31st May 2021. This, in summary, is the person we are burying today to await the trumpet call of our Lord's return. There goes a legend, an era has gone, a new generation rises.
The entire Nyamongo family, these are the moments that the Lord has given us to come and celebrate the life that has been well lived. We started connecting with the late Daktari as a friend in the year 1964. I was admitted at the Kendu Adventist Hospital. That time, my father left me behind. And they left me with one of the doctors who is also late, who was a friend to Dad. So when that Daktari came to say hi to me in the morning, he came with another friend. Then he said, Nekegusi,
Oyo Nyamonga Korokwa. So the name stuck. But I didn't know anything. Many years later, when I was walking around the Matutu area where Mzee was living, we met when we took our child to him. And then we began to talk from there. And then we had the following things in common. He married in 1952. I was born in 1952. So as we shared, he said, so you are my firstborn? I said, yes. Later he told me he has a son by the name Jack, and they said, this is your follower. But I said, I have never seen my follower. And then we moved on from there. The late Mzee Matoya, father-in-law to Jack, in one way or another, I used to call him my grandson, the way people are structured in the family trees. So with Mzee Nyamongo, I said, you are my grandson, because you and the Walter Nechikoleramole, but I know Mocho Korone. And then we could make fun, and we continued to talk. And I said, I went to school in 1939. We were developing our friendship. So I told him, I went to school in 1959. So there is a 9 here in between that brought us together as friends. As we began to develop that friendship when we were taking our children for his care, he not only gave us madawa yale ya kidaktari, but at times he could say, go and look for this kind of herb, and then mpatie mtoto, it will be okay. And from that moment, my wife is like a kind of herbalist. She knows almost every kind of tree existing that can serve as a medicine because of Mzee Nyamongo. He gave me his history. The late Mzee Jonathan Nauma, when I started working and I was posted to Nyanchwa to work there, I was already retired. He could come, tulikuwa na wazungu pale kidogo, and they could tell me, ayo mwano linchon translate ya manganara, ba ntabatindi ko iwe kibago teba. Then he gave me his background also, how he was brought up. So we lived together as Mzee, and now began sharing mambo ya kanisa. He was an elder on the other side. I was a pastor on the other side, and that friendship continued even up to this moment that he has slept. Allow me to say this. We have come to share his burden with you. Christ came and lived for the sake of serving others. Daktari lived and served others with all his strength, his mind, knowledge, not only physically, but he witnessed spiritually also, for he never failed to witness for Christ. Allow me to say a poem for his sake. Something of Christ was in him as he went among the suffering to heal and bless. Something of Christ's own comfort he bestowed through his compassion and tenderness. Virtue went from him through the pressing hour to all who touched him down life's crowded ways. Unselfishly, he dispatched his powers through sleepless nights and long demanding days. He was the first at birth to fire the strangling breath. Through the intervening years, he was a wise and a kindly counselor. And then at death, his were the hands that closed the weary lids. God told Daniel, chapter 12, verse 13, but you go your way till the end, for you shall rest and will rise to your inheritance at the end of the days. A friend has gone to sleep until resurrection morning. So the family of my friend and the other friends into the hands of God, we commit you. Let's join hands in the spiritual journey, awaiting that day when there will be a reunion, never more to part. And God bless you.
Our father was well-rounded. He had friends, but a major part of his life also was church. And he was involved not only as a church member, he was involved in organizing churches, building churches, and also bringing up his children to be Christians and going to church.
It is our pleasure as Karen community to say a brief word this morning to those of us who have gathered here to be part of this ceremony. The Lord has been good to us because for the last 6 years, Mzee Naftal came and settled his mind and his fellowship with us. His coming to Karen was a blessing and is still a blessing. And we want to thank God and share with you that it has been an experience that we have cherished. We want to thank God for these moments we shared. Very memorable moments. Mzee was a soft-spoken gentleman. He would almost engage each and every person separately. You may not notice as a congregation as he comes and goes, but if you had a moment to share with him as an individual, then you would appreciate and you'd cherish the encouragements you would get as an individual. It took us, many of us, down memory lane of the Advent movement from Gandia, 1906, to Kisii Highlands. And at the tip of his fingerprints were the names of those patriarchs who worked for God in those early days. We want to thank God that he was able to share this with us. And particularly, I had lived around Gandia and was very much appreciative of these moments that we shared with him. He was fluent and eloquent in Luo, for those who knew, and he taught me vocabularies that I think most of us probably sitting in this congregation today may not be familiar with. One particular vocabulary I remember he taught me in Luo is a word called jananga. Jananga, a man of the cloth. I think very few Luos might be able to know what that word means. Essentially, it means someone who was able to wear clothes in the early days of the skin. So it also means someone who is elite, someone who is informed, someone who is able to dispense knowledge. So we thank God for these moments that we shared.
It is a sad moment for the family, but we have the joy that our brother has slept, in that he has served, he has run the race, and he has completed. Our brother Naftal is the firstborn in the family. Our father, together with Agwata, they embraced the Seventh-day Adventist religion 1911 from Wire. From there, when they converted into the Seventh-day Adventist, when Naftal was born as the firstborn, he followed the footsteps of the father, and the father taught him on how to handle the family as a firstborn. He carried that responsibility to the time of his death. After his training, our mother used to go to the market to sell porridge and come back home. After he graduated and after getting education, being the firstborn, he advised mother to stop because he had gained an employment which could enable the family to move forward. So that put the family in perspective, and also all of us, he taught us on how to embrace the family life. As I interacted with him, there are a few things he told me. One is when he was walking around in Kenya, he found a lady who had fractured a leg, and he carried out the first aid. So later on, that lady became the mother-in-law of one of our sisters. So you can see how he was carrying himself. Across board, he did not choose whom he was interacting with, but he taught us the values of a family. He has slept following the tenets of what our father taught him, Christian life, and he has imparted to us as the siblings. We are happy he has slept, and we are happy as the firstborn, the role he played both to the family, to the community, and to the greater Gusii land, and even in the Luo land across. You get someone, you tell him that I'm a brother to so and so, he will quickly connect with our brother Naftali. That he carried as a firstborn, which we should embrace as firstborns in the families. He took the responsibility and he carried it forward in the manner in which he was supposed to carry it. He played the role to me as a father. During my wedding, he's the one who negotiated, and even the dowry is the one who cleared everything. During my working life, he kept on following my progression in the office, both in career-wise and in education-wise. In 1983, he came and witnessed my graduation. In 1998, he made sure that he came to UK, where I was studying to ensure that I graduate. So you can see the concern he had in the family. He could not choose that this is my son, let me give him something else or different from my siblings, even to the community. To me, he taught me a lot, not to choose, because he could tell me, come, we go. Where we go, you find that it's an old friend, which most of us, we ignore. But with him, he valued the relationship and the friendship. We who are alive, let us emulate, and more so, let us look at Christ. The Father taught us Psalms 123 and Psalms 133, which him as the firstborn embraced. May God bless us as we move forward, and as the family will continue sojourning as a unity. May God bless you all, and thank you.
Sisi kama familia tunashukuru Mungu jinsi vile ndugu yetu amekuwa mgonjwa na amelala usingizi akingojea parapanda ya itakapolia. Biblia inatuambia ya kwamba wale tulio hai hatutachukuliwa kwanza, waliokufa katika Bwana watafufuliwa kwanza, halafu wale tulio hai tutaunganika pamoja nao. Mzee Naftal Nyamongo Nimeingia katika poma yao mwaka wa 1968. Alikuwa amenifundisha mengi, jinsi ya kulea watoto. Sisi tulitoka Kisii kitambo 1972 tukaenda Mombasa, lakini amewahi kututembelea mara nyingi, akicha kutuona kama ndugu zake na dada zake na kuona watoto. Tumekuja sasa kumuaga, lakini sisi hawa tulio hai tuko hapa. Ndugu yetu amemaliza mwendo, amepiga vita vilio vizuri, amemaliza. Tujiulize, kwa sababu hakika kila mmoja wetu atakufa. Tujiulize, ikiwa nitakaporara vile tunaona hivi sasa, itakuwa upande gani? Mungu tuweze kumulilia Mungu, tutubu, tushike njia vile ndugu yetu alipokuwa ameshika njia ya Mungu. Na mmesikia amefundisha wengi, ametuachia taa haikusima, na sisi tuendelee. Ninasema ni asante. Watoto wangu, sikiria mahali baba ameachia. Ni machungu sana, ni masito sana kama kwa familia, lakini Mungu wetu hatutauliza swali, ulikuwa wapi? Huyu mtumishi akilala alikuwako, anajua amemaliza mwendo. Turudi kwa Mungu, tusike njia, tusisime taa zetu zisiti kuwaka, na tuweze kuendelea, na msiti kubarikiwa. Kulia tutalia, lakini Mungu tumuombe akae ndani yetu, na Mungu aweze kufariji watoto wa mtumishi marehemu Naftal Nyamongo, watoto, wajukuu na the great grand sons and daughters. Mimi ni hayo machache tu, na Mungu asiti kuwabariki.
Jack and your siblings and the entire Nyamongo family, my family and I wish to condole with you in this time of grief. But I want to make one observation, that the kisses say, I don't know how to translate it into English, that there are some people who should not be mourned. Somebody might ask why that should be the case. Because according to the kisses, those people have done all that they were supposed to do. There are times when you are in an occasion like this and you hear people say, this man or this lady lived his life or lived his full life. Then a few things run in your mind and you ask yourself, oh, what does that really mean? You hear people talking about somebody who has enjoyed his life and those kind of things. Mzee Nyamongo is one of those people, in my view, we should all agree that he lived his full life. He did not only bring up a wonderful family, he was of great service to the church. He was of great service to the community. He preached the gospel by word of mouth and even more by what he did. So I want to join the others, Jack, Isaac, and your other siblings, to say that, please, I know you have to mourn because your dad, this is somebody you can never forget. You have to mourn. But as Paul tells us, let's mourn as people who understand. Mzee did his work. He has left. The challenge actually should be now whether or not we shall also finish our race the way he has finished. I can't remember when I met Mzee first, but we almost became instant friends. He had his own ways of making friends. He could make friends with very little children, with very old people, and literally everybody. And a few times he came to my neighbor's home, Getuis. He would just walk to my gate and say, this judge, are you serving the people well? That's how he would start, and then you have a conversation. So for me, I have lost a friend, and I want to join you in saying that let's send off Mzee and wait for that resurrection morning. So on behalf of myself and my wife and our children, we say Pole Sana to Mzee's demise, and we look forward to that resurrection morning when we will join him and others, never to part anymore. May God bless you. Thank you very much, Daktari, for this opportunity.
Ninajua Bwana ni hakika, neno lako halitapita. Ulisema mwanadamu ni mavumbi, we utarudi. Kwa hivyo Bwana, mimi ninajua siku moja nami nitalala mavumbini. Kwa hivyo Bwana, mimi ninajua siku moja nami nitalala mavumbini. Unikumbushe Bwana wangu siku zote, nikate shauri Bwana, kama ni kuifanya kazi yako, shike zamu yangu, na utakaporudi Bwana wangu kuchachua wateule wako, Bwana waliolala hai, nami Bwana niwepo pale. Ninajua Bwana ni hakika, siku moja we utarudi, navyo vitabu vile vya kumbukumbu siku hiyo vyafunuliwa. Wewe na mirafiki tutakuwa kundi gani watu watakapobaguliwa. Wewe na mirafiki tutakuwa kundi gani watu watakapobaguliwa. Unikumbushe Bwana wangu siku zote, nikate shauri Bwana, kunifanya kazi yako, shike zamu yangu, na utakaporudi wateule wako Bwana, walolala, walioaidha Bwana, niwepo pale. Nifumbue macho Bwana wangu, nami nione mambo haya, kisha unifanye niwe chombo chako, kabla pumzi haijakoma. Niyaone dunia kuwa ni kitu bure, nionyeshe watu njia yako. Niyaone dunia kuwa ni kitu bure, nionyeshe watu njia yako. Nikumbushe Bwana wangu siku zote, nikate shauri Bwana, kama kuifanya kazi yako, shike zamu yangu, utakaporudi Bwana wangu kuchukua wateule wako Bwana, walolala, walioaidha Bwana, niwepo pale. Nikumbushe Bwana wangu siku zote, nikate shauri Bwana, kuifanya kazi yako, shike zamu yangu, na utakaporudi Bwana wangu kuchukua wateule wako Bwana, walolala, walioaidha Bwana, niwepo pale.
God bless you.
It's a difficult moment for the Nyamongo family to bid farewell the loving dad. It's one of those things we never get prepared for. Parting a parent, a family member, will always be a painful experience. But I take comfort, and I'm sure that's the comfort that the Nyamongo family have, that they know God, and that they know that God allows things to happen so that His name can be glorified. That's the God that we want to share with you this morning. And that's why we have come here in large numbers, despite the COVID situation in the country, just to encourage you and to tell you that it's well. It's well, and it should be well, because God has allowed it to happen. Listen keenly to His Excellency Emeritus Chief Justice Maraga. Speak and mourn your dad. Justice Maraga, a man that we are, as a community, we are very proud of. A man who has profiled the community nicely and in a way that we are understood well as one of the most principled community. He spoke about your dad in a way that I think I agree with him, and I agree with the speakers who might have spoken ahead of me, that your father has lived his full life. He served as a church elder. He served to ease the pain of the patients that he touched. And he has raised a wonderful family. So, Professor, your brother Isaac, and all your siblings, your father has done it all. The challenge that you have is that he has set a very high standard for you to achieve. Because the success of a family So I'm told my late father, who passed on a year ago, a couple of months ago, kept on telling me that, my son, your success would never be measured by the money you are going to have. Your success will be measured by the kind of children you are going to raise. So using that gauge, using that standard measure, your father has achieved more than most of us seated here probably will ever achieve. Raising a wonderful family like you people, having a chance to know you, Professor, and your siblings. You are amazing people, loving people, useful people in the society. I remember when you took time to come and join us in the funeral in Kisii when I lost my father, even though I didn't have a chance of seeing you, but you later explained there were multitudes and thousands of people. But that was a good gesture of friendship, because the day was not convenient to most people, but you stopped everything else to come and join us. That's why people have come here today, even when they would be somewhere else doing their chores. But we have chosen to come here because, like the good Bible says, we are more present when we are in the house of mourning than in the house of joy. So it's a great day to the believers, because your dad has done it all, and we just want to wish him well and the family.
At times you might lack words to express, but let me share my story with Uncle. He was someone that when I was growing up, now when we were little children, we were not staying in Kisii, and when we could go visit our grandparents in Kisii, we also had a day to go and visit him at Nyansiongo. And our conversation never went down without him asking how you are faring on in school, or what plan do you have for your life. But most importantly, my experience with him came between 2012 and 2016, when I was taking care of my late grandfather Moindi. And he kept on visiting and checking on him. And what I loved about his visits were the stories that they were sharing. The stories on how the church began, how the mission was, how the people of old were behaving, and stories of faith. And during that period, I had not completely converted because I was here and there. But from that experience with them, I totally gave my life to Christ because of the stories I kept on getting from them. And during the time I was taking care of Grandpa, he could visit, and what he could do, he could tell me in Ekegusi, Egasio Koranengia, that means the work you're doing is good. And then he could tell me, stand up, I pray for you. And in those prayers, he never missed mentioning Nyasai Gorero Mwano Yebisio. And before he left, he could leave me 1,000 shillings and tell me, Gore Savuni. And little did he know, those 1,000 shillings that he was leaving for me, they were the ones I was using to apply for jobs here and there. And there's a job I applied in 2015, which I had even forgotten. I moved to Kisumu, that is around 2016. And immediately, grandfather Moindi died. I was called for an interview, and I got the job in 2016, almost in November. And those 1,000 shillings that he left me, and those prayers that he kept on offering for me, are the reason I'm standing here today and giving a tribute to Uncle. I experienced his love. He kept on asking how are those children going? He kept on calling Dad, asking, have they gotten something to do? And you could feel his concern, you could feel his care. And today I'm comforted by the Bible, where Christ says that in this world we will not die, but what he says, the dead in Christ shall rise. I'm encouraged because Christ doesn't tell us that we won't suffer. Christ doesn't tell us that we won't experience pain. But what he says is, be of good cheer, I have overcome. And I'll just do a stanza and a chorus of a song that we all know, just to share my experience with him and to keep up with the faith that he led us through. And the song is a song that's familiar to everyone, that is 632 in our SDA hymnal, that says, until then, I'll just do stanza 1 and the chorus. My heart can sing when I pause to remember a heartache is but a stepping stone. Along a trail that's winding always apart. This troubled world is not my final home. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on. Until the day my eyes beholds the city. Until the day God calls me home. I encourage everyone to endeavor to keep the faith as he kept, to stay on track as he was, so that when God calls us home, we'll be reunited together in the hope of glory. May God bless all of us.
But I'll call upon my sister here, daughter-in-law, Mary, to come and give her tribute. As she comes, I'll tell you that Mary was introduced to me in Glasgow when we were living there. We saw a lady in church, and our father had come to visit us, says, this lady looks like my daughter. Then I asked, which daughter? I said, no, that is Isaac's wife. That's how I was introduced to you.
Good morning. Good morning. I stand here to pay a tribute to a friend. And I stand here on behalf of my sisters, Eunice Nyamongo and Susan Manyaga. As you know, Mzee had 3 sons. I'm the youngest of the 3, and I had the privilege of living with Dad. I'm also a lawyer. And when Isaac took me home, I thought Dad would be wondering, who is this lawyer lady? But Dad had only one question. Is she an SDA? Isaac said no, but we have agreed she'll become an SDA. And when I was introduced, that's the only question he asked me. Will you become an SDA? And I said yes. And I became an SDA. And I've taught children I sing in the choir. He taught me to pray. And he taught me the little Kisi. I know my husband doesn't speak to me in Kisi, but Sokoro always talked to me in Kisi and told me, now that you're Kisi, you need to learn this language. And therefore, I stand here to mourn a teacher, to mourn a father, to mourn a grandfather. Sokoro was caring. I carry a purse currently that he bought for us in America. He would count all of us. And he would come and say, Nangeria Mary. He would then bring a gift to me when he traveled. He didn't forget any of us. He loved his grandchildren. He still considered my husband a child. And he would ask, Mtoto amekuja. We laughed about it. But in hindsight, we are his children. We always were his children. We always will be his children. So as we stand here and we consider his life, we are also assured that he loved God to a fault. He prayed incessantly. If there's somebody I knew was praying for us, it was Dad. He prayed every morning. He prayed every evening. You came home and he asked you, who has brought you home? And if you didn't say God, atakwambia umekosea. Ni Mungu amekuleta nyumbani. Dad loved God. We've lived with Dad since we moved to Karen in 2015. He showered every day before 7. On Sabbath by 8, he was ready to go to church. We actually delayed him. And that's why all my church members call him Sokoro, because that's the term, the name we gave him. Dad was very, very structured. He had eating times, bathing times, walking times. And I just want to acknowledge 3 of the people who took care of him. I would like to acknowledge Hesbon, if Hesbon is here. I would like to acknowledge Abby. Abby, if you can stand. I would like to acknowledge Hilda. Hilda, if you're here. Hesbon has been with us for a long time. It took time to be with him in hospital. Apart from the grandchildren who are recognized in the program, I would like to acknowledge Diana. If you, Diana, you can stand and wave. Alvin and Claire, if they're here. They considered, they regarded, they treated Sokoro as their own Sokoro. I would like to acknowledge all my friends who have stood with us, who've loved Sokoro like their own Sokoro. May God bless you. I'm reassured that Dad is at a good place. Dad served the Lord with all he had, with all humility. I look forward to meet him when Jesus comes again. May God bless you.
I just want to thank you for all of you finding time to come and pray with us and consult with us. This is our Tata, who is in this casket. He's not laying here because he was a bad father, but because God saw that he has finished the race. He has done what he was supposed to do on earth. He was a good father, kind. He was fondly known by the community, the Borabu community, as a daktari. When I sent a word out that Mzee has rested, they quickly called me and corrected me. How dare you call him Mzee without adding the word daktari? and I gave them the power to change and write what they wanted to say. Most of them, when we did a virtual service, I listened keenly how our Tata impacted their lives. He could treat them even when they didn't have money. He could even offer them school fees when their parents didn't have. He will make sure spiritually they are nourished, even when they were not Seventh-day Adventists. And they are who they are because of Tata. To our siblings, he was our dad. And in our hearts, we all know who our dad was. I know we will cherish it. I know the grandchildren will cherish it. They walked with him. They took him to the beach. They did races. They cooked for him. They served him. In America, we don't have servants, or we don't have workers. We do it ourselves. And they make sure our Tata is comfortable. I listened keenly how they were sharing stories of their grandfather. I listened keenly how the great-grandchildren were praying for him until we had to tell them to stop because Sokororia has rested. They asked me one question, "Grandma, are you sad?" I said, "I am, yes, but I'm a Christian." To our siblings, he taught us how to be Christians. I remember April when we received a call that our dad is not feeling well. We all came. And you know why I'm smiling today? We all moved to our brother Isaac's house. All of us. All of us. We stayed there. We sang. We shared meals. We could all go to the hospital and sit there. And when two of us goes to visit our dad, he will be told, "Your children are outside." And they will say, "Mbiyamono." Our dad rested, knowing that we, the siblings, we were together. I pray that we'll continue like that because that's what our father taught us. My brother, Jack, you are our eldest. Eunice, you are our mother now. You are our dad now. Carry the mantle so that our father legacy will continue. I know it's not going to be easy, but we will support you. And I want to thank you for all you did for Dad. You ran up and down. You talked with the doctors. May 22nd, when I was leaving, you told me it's going to be okay, Janet, go. And when we are ready to take Father home, you will come. And they will take Daddy home. You even told me, we have a physiotherapy who will make our dad walk again. But you know what? God knew best. Thank you. I have a tribute from the entire USA, and my niece is going to read.
This is a tribute. Your extended families, friends, and well-wishers residing here in Minnesota and other parts of the USA would like to send our heartfelt condolences to the family of Omogaka Naftal Nyamongo. We are saddened because you have lost a father, a brother, uncle, grandfather, great-grandfather, to all. We here are most sincerely mourning the passing away of a great person, a father and a friend. He always carried himself in a manner worthy of respect and love. Whenever he visited us here, he always has more invitations to visit our homes than he could manage, so he could end up declining some. For those of us who love history, he taught us history going back many years, always coming back to acknowledge the power and love of God Almighty. Those of us from the vicinity of Menyanya can recall how, together with other elders from the surrounding areas, he pioneered the planting of Menyanya SDA Church, founded under a tree of many years before a church building could be built. His influence was felt not only as a church leader, but also as a God-fearing family doctor who first treated and money came later. Some of us recall with a lot of love how Omogaka, together with his late wife, Omongina Roda, also a great person, could open the doors of their home to run a refuge during tribal clashes in the early days of settling. Rhoda always made sure that there was food to eat, more than enough, and a place to sleep. Also, good tea with milk and sugar never missed in their home. We could not finish talking of his goodness in only a few minutes. We understand the sorrow that is in your hearts as his family. We join with you, his family, in the comfort of believing and knowing that as a lifelong dedicated servant of our Father, God, Omogaka Nyamongo has a crown of life, like the Apostle Paul, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give him at his appearing soon. Amen.